This review isn't going to be as structured as my other book reviews have been. It's going to be more of a reaction. I definitely had a lot of thoughts with this book. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I wouldn't say I hated it. It just was really heavy for me, and I want to talk about it online. So if you want to hear about it, keep on watching. Hi, I'm Maxine. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I'm here to talk to you about Queenie. Yeah, I'm super excited to tell you my thoughts and give this book a review, and also just like overall react to this wild book. So stay tuned if you'd like to hear more. Okay, so before I get into this review, I want to give a little background on the author. So this book was written by Candice Carty-Williams. Candice Carty is a British writer. This is her debut novel. She has written for other publications such as The Guardian, ID, Vogue, The Sunday Times, Beat Magazine, and Black Ballad. She's also a contributor to the anthology New Daughters of Africa. This book has been everywhere. It's caused quite a buzz online and in lots of literary circles, and I'm really glad I was able to get my hands on a copy from the library and discuss this book with you. So this book is about a woman named Queenie. She's in her early 20s. She lives in England. She's a young journalist, and she's really sorting through a lot of trauma from her childhood and also her struggles in the dating world. And this book is just kind of a overview of her life and the decisions she makes and why those decisions are happening. I had so many thoughts reading this book. It's a lot happening, and honestly at some moments it was very triggering. There is some violence, sexual violence, and it is descriptive of that. This is also just one of those books where the main character makes a lot of poor decisions. So if that's not quite your cup of tea, I wouldn't recommend this book to you. Queenie is not perfect at all. She is really just figuring it out, and she's having a tough time. I was reading the interview in The Guardian with Candice Carty-Williams, and I want to read one part that she said when approaching this book. So many people were asking her if this book was a reflection of herself, a younger version of herself, and though she says it's not autobiographical, she said, "It depicts a version of me if I'd let things get out of hand. I wanted to explore how, in the case of myself and lots of women like me, our sexual agency is still defined by someone else wanting something from us. When it comes to black women and interracial dating, you get accustomed to men saying, 'You're pretty for a black girl,' or 'You're not usually my type.' And actually, when you're told that's what your value is, it's hard to say no because you begin to feel grateful for the attention." The part where Candice says sexual agency is still defined by someone else wanting something from us, I definitely relate to that. I think for a lot of women, our introduction to intimacy or love, as far as romance, like relationships, is often very skewed because men just aren't taught to love in the correct way. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I can put more words to that at this time, but that quote really stuck out to me because I do feel like my first few relationships or experiences in dating, like I'm at the cusp of Gen Z, so every single guy I've met has been on a dating app, except no, one or two I've met like in real life, but for the most part it's from dating apps. And I don't know, it's just like a weird, unpersonal aspect to it. And there's also this culture of like not wanting to catch feelings, not wanting to admit what you truly feel, this sense of dishonesty when it comes to relationships. Wanting a relationship at a young age is very taboo. So yeah, this book definitely pushed the limits of my mind in a lot of areas. So I feel like that explanation is a great summary of the book as well. So Queenie is dating. She just ended a long-term relationship that wasn't going well. They went on a break, but she didn't really fully understand that the guy was not trying to go back. It wasn't a break, it was a breakup. And it seemed like that relationship was somewhat healthy, but she was never able to open up to her partner, and in the end he just gave up. This was a white man, and there were still a lot of cultural differences that are discussed in the book, mostly with his family not accepting her or making small like microaggression remarks about her blackness that her partner didn't defend her on a lot of times. So I'm sure that was hurtful for her. But on this break, she gets on dating apps, and the things that are said to her, and just like her constant struggles of finding a partner that treats her as an equal, is just really heartbreaking. I think this book was super triggering to me because I'm 24. I'm about to be 25 in like 4 weeks. I also work in media, and dating is really hard. I live in New York City, and I wouldn't say that my messages are similar to what Queenie's were. In the book, you see a lot of screenshots of what's happening and what's being said to her. There's not a lot of fetishy stuff being said to me, but I do get very frustrated with online dating, and I do feel sometimes like I'm not as desirable as other women on the apps, and I do think that's due to me being a dark-skinned black woman. Obviously, I keep a positive attitude and don't want to just fall victim to a mindset ruling my life, but I will say it's difficult, and I'm sure like it's difficult for young people in general to date, but especially black women. I mean, there are tons of studies about it. I won't go into it because even seeing that as a reminder can be really discouraging, but this book was triggering for me because it's like, dang, like not only in movies are there not dark-skinned black women really getting casted in these roles where they're receiving just equal love, but it's happening in books too. I'm not finding a lot of literary characters of black women that are experiencing happiness, and obviously this book was an honest depiction of that. And Candace says that she wanted this to be a book where, what if I wasn't all together? What if I was unraveling and making all these horrible decisions? This is what that book is. But I would like to see more characters where black women are just being loved, because the images we encounter are being impacted by our subconscious and by our actions. So seeing black love, or seeing just people in general loving black women and being delicate with them, being nice to them, treating them like human beings, I think that will make such a huge impact, and I really want to see more of that. Back to the fetishy messages that Queenie was encountering on the apps, I was really surprised to read through those parts. I feel like as an American who knows not much about life in London or England or even Europe in general, I've been to Paris once and that was for a week. I felt like it was easier to date outside of your race in those countries. I feel like a lot of times America has this reputation of being such a racist country, and that makes me think that, oh, if I just went to another country, it would be so different. Like, there's no such thing as race over there, and people don't have such huge hang-ups and stereotypes. But boy, was I wrong. Or in this book, I was wrong, because she's experiencing constant fetishy messages about her body type, about chocolate, and like, does she taste like chocolate, and all this really, really, really creepy stuff. So that was shocking and also like upsetting. It's like, we think that the places we live are different or better, but there's a lot of similar things happening, and I feel like we've realized that just in this year of quarantine and all these different instances of racial reckoning and understanding that these injustices are happening all over the world. It's not just in America. I was happy in like the last third of the book when I was reading about Queenie investing in her mental health, getting a therapist, and also having those difficult conversations with her family. I know in the Black community in America, people have this aversion towards seeking therapy or talking to someone because you're crazy, or like you just need to pray or sort it out yourself, or that like comparison where like, if your mom went through this, why are you struggling with like the smallest inconvenience? And Queenie encountered that with her like traditional Jamaican grandparents who didn't see the point in it, but she pushed that and ended up finding peace, not necessarily perfect peace and like a happily ever after, but she was starting this journey towards healing, and I'm really glad that she was able to find that, and I'm glad Candace included that in the book. One thing that I wish there was more discussion on was the fact that Queenie had a miscarriage while she was on birth control. There was constant parts about her visiting the doctor and sorting through those emotions, but I kind of wish she talked to her friends about it or someone else, just to have a deeper conversation about miscarriages and the trauma around it and her feelings towards it. She really just smoothed it over and didn't discuss it with anyone else, and she just had to bear that, and I can't imagine what she was going through. Another part I wish was more unpacked was when Queenie admitted to one of her friends that she was afraid of Black men, afraid to date Black men or something, because she never dated Black men throughout the book. It was always white men, and they were super racist to her. And when her friend asked her about it, she just was like, I'm afraid of Black men. And I wanted to hear more because I have my own assumptions or ideas for why, but I'll never know Queenie's point of view on that and why she felt that way. There's always lots of discussions and critiques about Black men not dating Black women, so I don't want to go too deep into that, but I do feel like that was a part of her fear of it, and maybe even like judgment or insecurity around dating a Black man, having this inferiority complex that, oh, he might want a woman lighter than me or a woman that's not Black at all. That's just my personal opinion. We'll never know what Queenie was thinking, but I would like to see it. Okay, so for an excerpt, I'm gonna read page 52 at the top. I feel like it's a great depiction of the book and kind of how Queenie makes her decisions and operates. Another chocolate reference, this time from Sexy 69, whose age range of preference was a very discerning 18 to 99. When I got back to the house, I skimmed the OkCupid messages again. Was this what my life without Tom could be? Men in their droves calling me confectionery? Even with his neurosis and his love of logic and his racist family, at least I knew where I was with him. At least he cared about me. And at least I didn't have to delete all of this thinly veiled sexual harassment. What could I do to get Tom to love me again? Was time really all we needed? With a big heavy groan, I got ready for bed. I had to go to the hospital in the morning to make sure everything had passed smoothly. I wished I could tell someone about it. But as with other parts of my life, I'd rather bury, better to just keep it moving. Alright, so yeah, that passage is definitely heavy, and that's just a taste of what the book is like. I don't know if I would recommend this to everyone, but I do think it was a good story. It was layered. It was just like heavy, you know, like definitely don't read this if you just read something that took a lot of mental capacity to read, because this is heavy as well. But I do think these types of stories are important. I think we need a balance of happy as well as educational and wild stories like Queenie, so I would like to see more from that. I'm excited to see what Candace Carty comes out with next, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you have any book recommendations for me, please leave them below. I would love to hear what you guys are reading. If you've read this book, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear that too. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.